Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Trine, part number Hd005, 8-16 AC Us4. This is an electric strike by Trine. The 005, the Hd005, all of their strikes that begin with those simple numerical part numbers are incredibly common pieces of equipment in the industry that you're going to see primarily in residential applications. They are economy grade, they are entry grade, they are standard grade. They're not meant for any sort of high volume use. They're not meant for any applications where you are going to expect any vandalism at all. But in a standard application, in an adult sort of standard application, this will be a very reliable strike. You're going to see these in residential applications where you have an intercom system and you want to buzz people in. The buzz comes from alternating current, or AC. When you energize an alternating current circuit, you will, when you're connecting it to a solenoid like this, going to get that buzzing sound, that audible sound. In direct current DC, you don't get that. All you would hear is perhaps a momentary click when the device is actuated. So if you've got a strike and you know it's buzzing, you automatically know it's AC. It could be DC as well, power, if you've got an AC strike, but you for sure know that you've got an AC alternating current strike. Very common wood frame type construction, where you have that intercom 3 flat, want to be able to allow people to come up into the space, and you will be able to control the electric strike remotely. We also know just by looking at this strike that it is a fail secure strike, meaning in absence of power, it's locked. And that would be typical for AC strikes, because if you had a fail safe strike, you've got fail secure, in the no power, it's locked. Fail safe, no power, it's unlocked. Okay, so if you had a fail, just to turn it on its end a little bit, if you had a fail safe strike that you had to energize to lock in an AC environment, you would have buzzing all the time. You would not want that at all. So a lot we can tell, and I know that it's fail secure because as I push on the keeper, it doesn't move because there's obviously no power. I need to temporarily close the circuit, or allow power to energize the strike in order for it to permit the keeper to retract, or to allow the latch to be pushed through that space. That will simply articulate out. And so we can tell a lot just by looking at it. Let's tell a couple of other things that we can't say just by looking at it, like the height. 3.5 inch tall. The overall width of the faceplate, about 1 3/8. Overall depth, about 2 3/4. We've got these small leads. These are going to be compliant, as is the solenoid on the inside, for 8 through 16 volts AC. You can supply this with any voltage AC that is between 8 and 16. It will work. You want to give it a 12 volt AC power supply transformer? Great. You want to give it 16, 8 volts, doesn't matter. It's going to work. And that's how that's going to be. Body dimensions. Let's take a look at the body dimensions. Overall height of the body alone, it's about 1 inch and 13/16. Overall depth of the body, about 2 5/8. And then thickness of the body alone, about 1 inch. Maybe just slight on that. Okay. Going to come with a couple of wire nuts, those fancy newer style wire nuts. I think you crimp those together. A couple of screws that'll be intended for a wood frame. There's information down below that will allow us to take a look at it for use with cylindrical lock. So the first line, for use with a cylindrical lock. Okay, what does that mean? That's really important to know, because the keeper, the shape and the dimensional properties of the keeper area will only accommodate a cylindrical lock latch, and really what they mean is a 1/2 inch latch. You can get 3/4 inch latches on cylindrical locks. That's not going to work in here because there's too much latch to fit in to the keeper. It won't go all the way in, meaning the bolt won't be fully extended, which means the lock won't be fully locked, and will basically be intermittent at best in its behavior. It's not going to work reliably. People say, "Hey, I can't get the strike to unlatch. It just I can hear it buzz, but the lock's just not working." And we talk more and more about it, and it turns out they've got a low end. And I don't mean low end. Trine makes the incredibly top grade 1 strikes as well. But there's a need in the marketplace for entry level, mid grade, and high grade. The application dictates which you use. Obviously, this client, it looks like it's a residential location where this is going, does not need to spend $400 on a strike. They need this. So as we talk about why the client's strike doesn't work, the culprit is the strike. The culprit's always the electrified hardware, the voodoo and black magic of what we do. Not really. It's all very reliable. And then we start to discover that they have an entry-level strike like this, but they're using a $500 mortise lock. It can be a $150 mortise lock. Doesn't matter. But the projection of the latch on a typical mortise lock is 3/4 inch. It's not going to work. It works sometimes and it doesn't other times. Yeah, I can expect that. I guess it depends on how hard you push. But you won't get the latch to fully, fold out of the way or to retract as everything is bound. So when they say cylindrical locks, yes, but 1/2 inch latch projection is the governing factor. Almost all cylindrical locks will be 1/2 inch. But there are instances, like in a fire-rated pair of doors, where the label on the door itself will dictate 3/4 minimum latch throw. And that's where you get your grade 1 lock. And then you have to order the upgraded UL-compliant 3/4 latch projection to go with that lock. Not for this strike at all. So be mindful of that. Voltage and duty, intermittent. This is meant to be intermittently used, not to be energized all the time. Very occasional intermittent use. 8 to 16 volts AC. Fail secure, we talked about that. Power to unlock, indeed. It's not powered and it's locked, so I need power to unlock it. So they do say max latch length is maximum 5/8 of an inch. I'm not aware of any 5/8 latch projections. They probably exist, but what that means, tying into the first line, 1/2 inch latch is what you're going to use with this. Us4 satin brass, or the four in the part number, it's not. It's satin brass is what this is supposed to emulate. That faceplate is not magnetic. I wonder if it's zinc. It must be zinc. It's not magnetic. It's certainly not stainless steel, would be my guess. This is intended for a wood frame application. I don't see why you couldn't use it in a steel frame if you were determined to. You'd have to come up with mounting tabs to get that installed, but you can do that. Mounting for Centerline installations. Centerline. That really needs to refer to the fact that you're installing a door in a frame. The latch is coming out of the center of the thickness of the door, where they want you to gauge the location of the strike is going to be based on the center line of the latch. In terms of the vertical height. So your lock is intended to be installed in the center line of the faceplate. What that means, and you might say, okay, well, great. You don't even, possibly realize that that's what you need. Okay, so if you're doing a mortise lock with an electric strike, you need to relocate the center line of one or the other so that the center line of the latch is the center line of the keeper. The center line of the face of the lock body and the center line of the face of the electric strike are not going to give you a center line of the latch and the center line of the strike keeper. Keepers are not always in the center line of the face. They're very often not. Mortise lock latch bolts are never installed in the center line of the lock body. They're always shifted down because you've only got about 5.5 inch worth of lock case. Well, they got to move the center line down to make room for all the additional parts that go above. The other thing that they're possibly referring to in the reference to center line is that obviously this is going to be the dimension towards the stop. Okay, so that dimension was 1 3/8. You're going to need to have this mounted, you know, with the center line of your latch as well, ideally with, not ideally, exclusively with the deadlocking tab being restricted by the curved face of this, because a proper installation with a deadlocking latch bolt is that the deadlocking tab is kept held in the case of the latch so that you can't Lloyd or otherwise jimmy the latch bolt. So you'll need to lay that out in the horizontal or lateral center line as well as the vertical center line. If the top of the door, just using basic dimensions, if the top of the door to the center of the hole of the 2 1/8 inch hole for your storeroom lock, let's say, is 39 9/16, 39 9/16, the underside of the header to the center line of the strike prep needs to be 39 11/16. Okay, there's an 1/8 of an inch gap at the top, and that's where that comes from. Moving down further, they say that it's a 5/8 latch throw with the understanding that there's an 1/8 of an inch gap between the jamb and the door, and that's where that 1/2 inch comes into play here. Okay, so they should really, well, I would just say 1/2 inch latch throw is what I would say, and your gap is your gap, is the bottom line. It might be for a marketing perspective. Hey, we can take a larger latch as long as your gap is 1/8 of an inch. Well, sure, you can take a 3/4 latch if your gap is a 1/4 inch. So you know, have it your way. Which then it's not a fire rated door if it's a 1/4 inch gap, that's for sure. And that's it. There is a link below this video to a dimensional drawing of the item. We've covered all of those topics. And finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Trine products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. I do like the company Trine, and I wish that I sold more of their products because they have a simple, no-nonsense footprint of items. They have entry, they have high-end, they can do anything you want. And what they can really do is answer technical support questions. And while every time that I call there's generally a return call that's required, I can tell you this, that they always call back. Always. And, you know, I'm not an electrician. I'm not a low voltage expert. And there are times when I have a question on application. And Trine supports their client base very well, in my opinion. I would recommend that you check out their full line from that product catalog. Especially if you're looking for grade 1 strikes. They are an innovator in the world of electric strikes, and they very likely will have a product that you didn't know exists and does actually make your job a little bit easier in terms of frame modification. There are some manufacturers of strikes that I will not want to work with because I've had a bad experience. Whether or not that's attributable to the manufacturer, you know, once you get a bad experience, you have a bad experience. I have no bad experiences with Trine. The customer will come up and say, yeah, I can just pull that. You know, if you have a spring-loaded solenoid, you can yank on the door enough to where you can pop this solenoid open. Sure, if you're going to drive a truck through an overhead door, yeah, you're going to have damage. So I don't hold that against Trine, that people vandalize their products. They report back that, yeah, they broke it. Okay, what did you expect? So I'm partial to them. Any questions on the Hd005 in a Us4, and they do make this in a chrome finish as well, or any other Trine product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.